Hi, welcome to Infodumpies. My name's Brianne. I'm autistic, I have ADHD, my pronouns are she, her, and I just really want to know where the Fresno Nightcrawlers buy their pants.
Hi, I'm Violet. My pronouns are she, her. I have ADHD, and I spent 10,000 hours impersonating a federal booby inspector and was never caught.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like the bird?
No.
Like the bird, the blue-footed
No.
booby?
No, the other kind.
Oh.
No, not really. But I could claim that in theory, and that kind of goes hand in hand with my first thing because we've got a sort of a split dump. It's mini dumps, but we've got like a split dump because Brianne has a double mini dump, and then I've got two.
Well, we decided last time it was a medium dump.
Oh, yeah, medium
when
dump,
we did
yeah.
the polygamy one. I have another medium dump. This is a mini dumps episode, so
Woo-hoo.
I'm going to be sandwiched between two violets, which is a frequent recurring dream I have. So,
Yeah, that checks out.
so what are you going to tell me about first?
The first thing I want to talk about, have you ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yes, I was low-key obsessed with it when it came out.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool movie. Leonardo DiCaprio playing the role of Frank Abagnale, and it's based loosely off of a true story, supposedly. And the idea is that this character is going around evading arrest by impersonating people and pulling off all sorts of feats of social manipulation, like, going to a uniform company and saying, "Hey, I'm a pilot. I lost my uniform in a hotel," or something like that. "Can you make me a new one?" And manages to convince them of that, say, "Oh, I lost my wallet," or whatever. A scam artist, basically, and continually managed to evade capture through daring escapes and all sorts of, hijinks and things like that. The FBI agent who is consistently trying to catch Frank Abagnale in the story is played by Tom Hanks. So you've got two really big stars, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, really playing well, acting incredibly well, doing some really cool scenes to try and depict this person's life. Frank Abagnale made some really wild claims over the course of his life. And what I want to do today is to go through why pretty much every single thing that he claimed that was featured in the movie is entirely false bullshit nonsense. So Frank Abagnale is such a lying piece of shit. He lied about being
a good liar.
He lied about being a good liar to the extent that it is so befuddling what is true and false. There have been numerous investigations, both independent and federal, into what he actually did and what there's actual verifiable records of. And it's a lot less impressive and a lot more shitty when you look at it.
I do think it's impressive he lied his way into having a film made about him with Leo and Tom.
It is really, I would say that is impressive.
That is the most impressive part. So I was, before it was clear that he was a slime ball, one of the earliest posters I had on my wall were Leonardo DiCaprio's I had pulled out of like Teen Beats and stuff, like post-Titanic, and I was obsessed with the Baz Luhrmann, Leonardo DiCaprio, Baz Luhrmann, Romeo and Juliet, and all of that. So when I was a teenager and this movie came out, we didn't discover that he dumps you as soon as you turn 25, and he wasn't clearly a creep yet. That I was like, ooh, Leo, don't mind if I do.
I, as a lesbian, recognize he was very, very handsome back in the day.
He was,
when he was dating people the same age as him.
Yes.
And now he's just gross. Now that he's still trying to date people that are the age he was when he was handsome. So, but yeah, anyway, enough about Leonardo DiCaprio. I think what I would like to talk about initially here is just kind of go through there's roughly 9 of the most prominent claims he's made and just touch on each one on why that's bullshit. His first claim, he impersonated a Pan Am pilot and flew over 1 million miles. No, he didn't. He was in prison for pretty much the entire time that he claimed to be flying around the world. He was in prison for cashing fake checks and lying about his identity and impersonating a pilot. Pan Am and other airlines that he claimed to fly for never had any record of him ever having a fake pilot's ID or flying as a, quote, deadheading pilot. Are you familiar with the term deadheading?
I don't recall what that means.
Yeah, so deadheading is where a pilot is flying from one place to another, and there happens to be like a spare seat on the plane for like a stewardess or something. One of the perks afforded to pilots on airlines is they will quote unquote deadhead, which means they will sit up at the head of the plane in an unoccupied spot just to get from one place to another without a ticket. They're allowed to do that as pilots. One of his big claims was that he flew over 1 million miles. Part of that was deadheading. Part of that was piloting. And this is just straight up false. He was in prison for most of that, and he actually made several claims at various points that really just don't make any fucking sense. At one point, he claimed that he eluded the FBI during a daring escape, going out through the bathroom via the toilet bowl. Which is like, hey, bud.
All drains lead to the ocean. I learned that from Finding Nemo.
It's like, it's so ridiculous. Like, he said he went down, he was familiar with the toilet apparatus, squeezed himself through the opening, swung down through the lower hatch, landed on the pavement, and ran across the runway and hailed a cab.
Oh, okay, sure.
He said, what I didn't know was that the door was spring-loaded, and when it slammed shut, the whole assembly fell back into place. Nobody heard anything because of the engine's roar. What are you talking about? Why would any of this be the case, and why would no one notice someone going into the bathroom a loud slam during taxiing?
Yeah.
Like, hey, bud, you got to be in your seat when the plane is taxiing. What are you talking about?
And
no
also
stewardess
just
said,
the
hey,
idea
sir.
that he's like, I squeezed myself down the toilet hole.
the toilet hole, which is like, no, you didn't. What are you talking about? Exactly. His second claim, he passed the Louisiana bar exam and worked as an assistant attorney general. In the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio says, oh, how did I do it? I just actually passed the bar exam. Right? That's all completely bullshit. The Louisiana State Bar Association has no record of him ever passing the bar. Research done by an author named Alan C. Logan showed that he was actually in prison in California during the time that he claimed to be working as a lawyer. And another researcher, I think an independent investigator named Javier Leiva, found no records of him ever working at the Attorney General's office, and in fact asked people who worked there if they recognized him based on a picture, and they said, no, I've never seen him before in my life.
It's weird that he lied so well about stuff that even back then, pre-internet, would be pretty easily verifiable because prison.
Right.
And then he managed to lie about it so well, they still made a fucking movie about him?
And that's the thing. There's been numerous articles and books and things written about how all of his claims are fake, and yet the meme of what he did keeps persisting somehow, and I don't get how.
Yeah.
Another claim that he made was that he worked as a pediatrician in Georgia. The hospital where he claimed to work at, Cobb General Hospital, has no records of him ever being employed either by his name or a pseudonym. The idea that an unqualified person could serve as a pediatrician undetected for months is highly implausible. Dude with literally nothing ever to do with babies ever. The author that I mentioned earlier, Alan C. Logan, found that he was again in prison during the time that he claimed to be doing this. The guy has spent so much time in prison, and the vast majority of it was for writing fake checks. This is the only thing he's actually good at.
I was going to say, which is the only thing in the movie that seems to have been accurate.
Exactly. And he almost always eventually got caught for it. Right. Clearly. So the whole premise of the movie...
Catch me if you
false.
can. I did. I could. I caught you almost immediately. You forged a check.
He spent many years in prison and would just consistently get out on parole and things like that because they weren't violent crimes. He claims that he taught sociology at Brigham Young University without a degree. No, he didn't. No records of any of that have not ever been found, and former faculty members have stated that his story is quote-unquote completely absurd.
Wow.
So, the things that he's saying just don't make any sense. He's claiming that he escaped from a federal prison in Atlanta. No, he didn't. His claims about the mechanics of the escape, convincing guards he was an undercover inspector, have been deemed logistically impossible. A prison inspector.
Oh, yeah, the common prison inspector.
An undercover prison inspector.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
That makes sense. Oh, hey, listen, officer, you've got me all wrong. I'm not supposed to be in jail. I'm the prison inspector. That's why I'm an undercover prison inspector. That's why I'm wearing the prisoner uniform.
And then he rolled a nat 20 persuasion check.
Yeah.
And in contesting the guard's intelligence role, he managed that one.
Right, exactly. Like,
sounds like a fucking D&D game.
Right, yeah. And the claims that he makes are just so unbelievable. I don't understand why nobody just went, no, you didn't do that. You can't do that. That's not reality. Claim number 6. He was on the FBI's most wanted list. No, he wasn't. He claims that he was on the FBI's most wanted list for doing, I think it was over 2.5 million in fraudulent checks across 26 countries. No, he didn't. It was like a grand total of like $1,500 over the course of his entire career cashing fake checks. Granted, this was before, this is in the 60s and 70s, early 80s, that sort of thing. So a lot of that was, in pre-inflation, basically. So it was a lot more money compared to nowadays.
Still not several million across 20
million.
Yeah, not several million across 26 countries.
Exactly. And that author I mentioned, Alan Logan, he went through actual arrest records and looked at like the totality of all the arrest records, and it was mostly unsuccessful attempts and much, much smaller in scale. He claimed to, and still claims by the way, to have worked for the FBI for over 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
He claimed to work for the feds, which is easily verifiable.
Yeah. The thing is, he is claiming that after he stopped his quote-unquote life of crime and started telling his story, that he has been helping the FBI catch fraudsters for 40 years. No, he hasn't.
No.
And to lend credibility to this, he says, I was personally mentored by FBI agent Robert Russ Frank, a highly respected FBI agent. When the investigative journalist Alan C. Logan looked and talked to Robert Russ Frank about his claims, Frank said, "That damn Abagnale uses my name all over the place, but I've never even met the guy." He's never worked for the FBI in a consultant or otherwise role ever. And he'll go on talks and things like that and say like, "Oh yeah, this is my 38th year working for the FBI" at the start of the talk. No, you've never worked for the FBI.
Not once.
And also, exactly, the idea that the FBI would trust a convicted fraudster with anything is just, it strains credulity. And then finally, he frequently claims when people call him out on his bullshit that all of the crimes that he did were harmless and victimless. All he ever did was fraud big corporations out of money that they would never miss and could claim on their insurance, right? Incredibly false. In fact, Alan C. Logan, again, looking at his arrest records, consistently cashing fake checks at small businesses and independent businesses.
So he's even bigger of a shithead.
Stealing checks from individuals and writing them out as if they were to him. Yeah, exactly. He's a complete shithead.
Wow. So the movie Catch Me If You Can is not based on any fact whatsoever.
Not really.
It just borrows the guy's name for a character that Leonardo DiCaprio plays.
Pretty much. And in fact, to lead more into that being even more so the case, apparently Steven Spielberg, who directed the movie, never actually sat down with Frank and asked him what was true or not. He just took tales that were told to the media and wrote the movie around that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there was zero fact-checking.
Pretty much. There was no fact-checking whatsoever done by Spielberg or the directive team. They just said, "This sounds like a great story. I'm going to make a movie about it. Okay, bye." And I think Abagnale was paid a total of like $30,000 entirely for the use of his likeness. Not that Leonardo DiCaprio looks like anything like the guy. The guy looks like a fucking sleazy car salesman.
Wild.
Yeah, so that's Frank Abagnale. He's a piece of shit. And even his kids are like, from what I've seen a few articles talking about him, his kids are like, "Yeah, I'm glad that people are finally like letting the truth out about the kind of person my dad actually was," which is like, Jesus. Good for you.
Well,
so yeah.
Would you like a little palate cleanser?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when I visit someplace new, one of the things I often like to do is to look up what cryptids are local, because I just think it's fun to see what sort of cryptid lore there is. So I would drive up to my school in Canada every year because I went, for listeners, I did part of my college education there. And there was one time I was stopping to visit a friend who lived in Fresno, and that is where I learned about the Fresno nightcrawlers, because I was just like, I wonder what mythical critters are purported to live here. So I realized I hadn't done that since we moved to Minnesota.
I hadn't either, come to think of it. I don't know what kind of cryptids we got here.
I was doing some research, and I do want to make a distinction. I'm going to talk about two of the ones that were my favorite, because there were several that I think there should be a clear distinction between this is indigenous folklore and mythology and / this is a cryptid. So a lot of the sort of cryptozoology thing were, twisting, like Ojibwe folklore and myth and stuff. So if I'm bringing up some cryptids and you're like, what about blank? That probably has roots in indigenous folklore, and I think it is, quite frankly, gross to just chalk it up to this is a make-believe cryptid, because a lot of those have like cultural and ethical sort of components to them that are part of the ethos of this community. You know what I mean? A lot of them have a parable. And
sometimes even like religious significance too sometimes.
Yes, quite frequently. There are a few of them where I'm like, well, this is a significant sort of deity in this culture. I don't think I need to treat that as a cryptid. For me, cryptid is like, look at these big old pants someone saw walking around Fresno, right? Or I heard this weird greasy pig crying in the woods. I'm a lumberjack in Pennsylvania. Like, those are the things I'm into.
Exactly, yeah. The sort of the things where it's like somebody claims they saw something out in the woods or the wilderness or what have you, or on the city streets even, like something like that, where it's like, hey, this is a story that is not a parable or folklore necessarily. I'm sharing my personal experience of an unexplained phenomena.
Yes. Some weird critter that people have seen over the years that rarely has some sort of, parable to it. So, I wanted to talk about Pepie.
Pepie.
Pepie. P-E-P-I-E. Pepie.
Oh, that's a good name.
That's a good name, right? The name made me laugh. I kept saying pee-pee, but I had to make myself say it correctly for show. So, Minnesota has more than 10,000 lakes.
It's a lot of lakes.
So, when you think about lakes, naturally, you think about lake monsters.
Piss. Yes, lake monsters.
Piss and lake monsters, yes. Surprising no one, Minnesota has several different lake monster myths.
I love that. I'm surprised it's only several, honestly, given that we have 10,000 lakes.
Yeah, so several of them are lake-specific. So they're named for the specific lake they're in. So the one that I'm going to talk about first is named Pepie, who is a sea serpent purported to live in Lake Pepin.
Oh my god, that's perfect. Pepie the serpent in Lake Pepin.
And if you're from Minnesota and I'm pronouncing any of this wrong, I don't want to hear it, okay? I simply don't. Don't tell me. I just don't care.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just don't.
Let us have the whimsy.
Let us have the whimsy. So, Lake Pepin is a lake along the Mississippi River. It's big. It's 22 miles wide.
Dang. That's really... Oh my god. Sometimes I forget how big the lakes are here. Like, I know Lake Superior is fucking massive, but like... Some of the other ones, I'm like, even the ones
that are not a Great Lake, because we're so used to Texas that has all man-made lakes.
Right. And you can see the other side on all of them.
Yeah, we're used to having man-made lakes. So
shout out to Lake Ray Hubbard. What's up?
The grossest possible one you could conjure up.
It's pretty nasty. I swam there as a kid, and I'm surprised I didn't grow like a 11th toe or something.
Or hit your foot on a bulldozer that's still stuck at the bottom.
Right. Oh, God, honestly.
So, in 1871, a local paper reported a sea serpent about 30 feet long was hauling ass through the water, and some fishermen saw this.
Haul ass, Pepie.
So, many describe seeing a serpent-like creature break above the water several feet above the waves and move in an eerie snake-like fashion.
Mm-hmm.
In 1968, 2 fishermen in Lake Pepin reported a large, dome-shaped, undulating back of a large creature in the water.
I just had a realization. Instead of sea serpents, since these are not seas technically, wouldn't this be a lake snake?
It would be a lake snake, yes, but the way
like
it's described is looking like the sea serpents you'd see on old-timey maps.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the early aughts, there were several searches for Pepie that were actually conducted with sonar. And while there were some strange blips on the sonar, they didn't find anything to prove that any sort of big critter lived in Lake Pepin.
Yeah, well, I want to believe in Pepie.
Me too. So there's a fun culture around Pepie now, and they'll have boat tours where visitors can search for Pepie on the boat tours.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and there's like annual events to celebrate Pepie and merch, and even a kayak race along the lake called the Pepie Paddle.
Oh my god. I want a Pepie shirt.
Right? I instantly
right?
was like, I need to see the merch of this little guy.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so there are other lake monster stories in other Minnesota lakes, including Lake Vermilion and Lake Minnetonka. The Lake Vermilion one is named Vermi.
Vermi! Oh my god. They got good names up here.
Okay, so this is the one I'm going to spend the most time on, this next cryptid, because I found some accounts of encounters with this one, and I will be giving you a dramatic reading of the one I found the most compelling.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Minnesota Dogman.
Oh, yeah.
Listen
up.
up.
I'm excited.
Furries, I think you will absolutely fuck with this guy. I think you'll absolutely be about the Minnesota Dogman.
Now, hold on. Do you mean literally fuck with this guy? Because
literally,
it sounds like that may be plausible.
Literally and figuratively, probably, for some people.
All right. Okay. Be careful out there, furries.
With sightings across the northern part of the state, the Minnesota Dogman is purported to be a bipedal, wolf-like creature. He's described as having a muscular humanoid build, having pointed ears, dense fur, and eyes that seem to glow. Depictions of his height put him between 7 and 9 feet tall.
The furries are going crazy right now, Brianne.
The furries and the monster fuckers are like hand in hand going to go explore the north woods of Minnesota. All of the pictures,
hand in hand, jumping up and down, chanting "Dogman, Dogman, Dogman."
Yeah, all of the pictures of him look like some of the sickest werewolf art you've seen.
Oh my god, can I look him up really quick?
Yeah,
I just want to see what this guy looks like.
Yeah.
Minnesota Dogman.jpg. Damn, it does look like really sick werewolf art.
Like I want it on a shirt,
shit.
right?
Yeah,
like one of
absolutely.
those 3 Wolf Moon sort of style shirts, but just with the Minnesota Dogman being like, rah.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I would love a Minnesota Dogman shirt. Sorry, I saw a shirt that just says "Welcome to Dogman Country."
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah. No, I think I might need that shirt. It says "Welcome to Dogman Country. Best advice you may ever get is don't go out at night."
Which I will go into why you wouldn't want to do that here in a little bit. If you're a monster fucker, you just have to hedge your bets. I'm going to give you a dramatic reading from a purported encounter from 2009. If you enjoy this, there are more encounters on the cryptid wiki for Dogman.
I love it.
So, in character. I'll start off by saying that I've never believed in any of these sort of creatures, but I saw something in early 2009 that really disturbed me, and it's making me change my mind. I was not under the influence of any drugs, and I have better than average eyesight. And the lighting was nearing sunset, but I was still able to see clearly. So I'll get this underway and explain my story, and maybe someone can shed some light on this for me. I live in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is in west central Minnesota, about an hour drive from Fargo, North Dakota. My mother-in-law lives out in the country about 3 to 4 miles out of Fergus Falls, and I was staying there while my wife and her mother went shopping in town. They called me and asked if I wanted to go to a 7 p.m. movie, so I left the house at about 6:30 to 6:45 p.m. to meet them at the theater. About 2 miles from their house on a country known as the Wendell Road, along the Mistinka River, I saw 3 white-tailed deer. 2 of the deer were rather small, probably just yearlings, and a large doe who I assumed was their mother. Me, being an avid hunter, lover of wildlife, and a future wildlife biologist, stopped to look at the deer. I should also mention that I hunt in the area and have spent my whole life in the Fergus Falls area. The deer were following a small creek bed, which is in fact the Mustinker River, so there were hardly any trees except for one. Maybe I didn't see it there because of the tree, but I noticed something crouching behind the tree on my side of the road, looking at the deer, and to my disbelief, hunting them. I just sat there, looking at the deer, taking no notice of me even though I was in my truck no more than 40 yards away, with a clear view of them, with nothing obstructing my view. It had one hand on the tree that was bracing itself with. What struck me as shocking was the fact that it seemed to be a two-legged creature, and not a four-legged one. Its hands appeared to have opposable thumbs and were rather slender and long, very unlike a wolf. The creature looked as though if it stood upright it would be over 7 feet tall, with a protruding muzzle, broad shoulders, a slender waist, thick muscular thighs, and being as there was snow on the ground, I couldn't see the feet. He was a deep, dark brown color throughout the body. After several seconds of looking at the creature, in shock, the deer ran off. Then something amazing happened. It looked right at me. As though blaming me for losing his meal, he just sat there, looking at me and blinking, but not moving. This scared the crap out of me, so I hit the gas pedal and drove off. It was very dark after the movie, so I didn't much feel like trudging through 3.5 feet of snow, with the possibility of a monster lurking in the area, who is currently looking for a meal that I scared off. So, at about 10 a.m., I went back there and walked down to the tree. Under the tree, there was no snow, so there were no tracks that I could see. But leading up to the tree, there were 3 tracks leading in from my grandmother-in-law's field, which was hard, black dirt. And if you know what a Minnesota field looks like in late winter, early spring, you can't make anything out of the dirt. The tracks I did find were only about 6 to 7 inches in length, but were clearly canine prints, with the exception of 4 toe-looking marks in the snow. And scene.
Wow, that's a pretty compelling story, and it does sound like the person that had this experience might have been a furry based on the large muscular thighs comment.
I mean, it is what it is, furry waist. Or not. If they're a quadzilla, you gotta comment on it, right?
That's true. That's what I say about you all the time.
That's right. So, most sightings of the Dogman are described as starting with this intense feeling of unease, like just washing over the person. Local Ojibwe tribes describe the Dogman as stealthy, able to move without making a sound, even in the snow, which is one of the reasons you do not want to go out at night, as the shirt suggests. Cryptozoologists seem to believe this creature is the same type of creature as the cryptids the Michigan Dogman, so Michigan has their own Dogman, and the Beast of Bray Road.
Whoa.
So yeah, those are the 2 favorite cryptids that I found while doing my normal cryptid Google I do when I go someplace new to see what sort of fantastical critters are claimed to live in the woods.
That's awesome. I would love to make a shirt about both of these cryptids, I think. I've got ideas swirling around in my head like Pepie under the lake.
Yeah, they both have very strong visuals attached to them, which is one of the things I appreciated.
Right? Exactly.
But yeah, I for sure having a Minnesota Dogman shirt, like maybe something, I got that dog in me or something.
Oh my God. Or like, I went to northern Minnesota and all I got was that dog in me. Or something like that. I don't know. Something funny about fucking the dog, man.
For the monster fuckers, yes.
Yeah. I just think it'd be funny. So yeah, thank you. That's awesome. I love that there's local cryptids pretty much everywhere you go. But now in our new home of Minnesota, I love it.
So what do you have for me as the final violet I'll be sandwiched between?
I have something very fun for you, and I actually want to start this out with a quiz to kind of test how much knowledge you have baseline. My topic for...
Brain empty.
Huh?
None. Brain empty.
No, that's not true. I feel like you're going to get at least one of these right. My topic is about animals in space. And before anyone says anything, yes, I know a human is an animal, but I'm talking about non-human animals in this particular case.
And not the Muppets sketch Pigs in Space.
Correct.
Okay.
So that does not count.
That does cut out a big chunk of my knowledge about animals in space, but I'll give it my best shot.
That's fair. So I've got 5 questions for you, and afterwards I'll kind of go through more of the list of what animals have been to space, when did they go to space, and where did they come from, and what were their names, and all of this good stuff. Question number 1. Which of the following animals has never been to space? There's only one correct answer here. A, tortoise. B, harlequin beetle. C, ladybug. D, gecko.
Okay, well, harlequin beetle feels too specific. I'm going to say ladybug.
Ladybug. Oh, you are correct. It is a ladybug. Yeah, ladybugs have never, purposefully, I should add, been sent to space. There may have been some really enterprising ladybugs on the side of a space shuttle that I'm unaware of, but...
Who definitely didn't burn up or...
No, definitely not. One thing I should also mention, by the way, is I am not going to be discussing whether or not any of these animals that went to space did or did not make it back alive, because that's a dark topic that I don't want to talk about. I'm going to talk about hero animals that have gone to space and are amazing, and I love them.
Cool.
But yes, you are correct. Ladybug is the correct answer. Tortoises have been to space, harlequin beetles have been to space, and geckos have been sent as little sticky astronauts up in a space shuttle, and I love that.
They got the little NASA outfits.
Yeah, I really hope they did, honestly. I haven't been able to see pictures.
They got the little suits.
Oh, that would be so good. Question number 2. What was the name of the first cat ever sent to space? A, Major Tom. B, Felicite. C, Muffins. Or D, Solnishko, which means little sun in Russian.
Okay, well, it would be too on the nose, I think, to have it be Major Tom. I think that would be too fun, like Tomcat, Ground Control to Major
Right.
Tom. That feels...
It's a great name for a cat.
Especially a cat going to space.
Yeah.
The Russian name feels very specific. So what was the Russian name?
The Russian name is Solnishko, which means little sun in Russian.
I think it's Solnishko.
Ah, you fell for my red herring. It is not Solnishko, actually. It is Felicite. This is a cat from the French space organization. Felicite was the first cat ever sent to space.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love Felicite. I actually have a picture in the notes. Yeah, a French cat was the first cat in space. And I actually have a picture that's going to be in the Patreon notes of the headline next to a picture of Felicite. With a little paw print like signature. I think is very cute. Yeah. And it does say the headline is Space Cat Back Alive, which I think is lovely.
Oh, I love that.
Question number 3. Now, this one, there are 2 correct answers.
Oh.
Yeah. What were the names of the first 2 dogs sent to space?
I know I got one of them.
Are you sure?
I know I know I got one of them.
A, Tsygan. Tsygan. B, Laika, Laika. C, Dezik, Dezik. Or D, Misha. And again, there's 2 correct answers here.
I think it's Laika's the one I have knowledge of. The other one's going to be a complete guess. So I'm going to say Laika and Misha.
Oh my gosh, you've gotten neither correct.
Damn!
I tricked you.
You tricked me. I thought Laika was the first dog in space.
Laika is actually not the first dog in space. Laika is the first animal to orbit Earth.
Oh.
Yeah. Which, again, incredibly important. Like, Laika is amazing. Incredibly cute dog as well. But there were actually 2 dogs that were sent together on a Soviet mission to space in 1951. Named Tsygan and Dezik, and they're very, very cute. I have a picture of them in the notes as well.
I was just completely wrong.
Yeah, the Russian space. I thought you were going to go for Laika for sure, and Misha was like, I'll throw another Russian pet name in there, just to see if I can throw you off.
And successfully threw me off.
Question number 4: What type of animal became the first to orbit the moon in 1968? A, chimpanzee. B, dog. C, tortoise. Or D, mouse.
Chimpanzee.
That is incorrect. It was a tortoise.
Wow.
The first animal to ever orbit the moon was a tortoise. I love that.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't have multiple choice. Do you know what the first animal to land on the moon is?
I don't know that, actually.
Tardigrades.
Tardigrades. Oh, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Now, when you say first animal to land on the moon, do you mean they were in the space shuttle during the moon landing?
I mean that a certain country that I don't see the validity of and is complicit in genocide sent a satellite up that crashed that had tardigrades in it.
Oh.
And because of that satellite crashing into the moon, there are tardigrades that might still be in their, their tun state, where they do that when they don't have water, air, or any of stuff on the moon.
You already know the answer to question number 5 then, which is what animal survived exposure to the vacuum of space?
That's my little...
The answers...
That's my little butthole bear babies.
Exactly. The other answers were ant, cockroach, or spider, but obviously
you got a question.
It's tardigrades.
You got a question with tardigrades in it. I know that.
But yeah, good job. I think I was able to trick you for quite a few of them.
You were, yeah.
Animals that have been to space. The first animal that was ever sent to space, not to the moon or anything, just straight up first launched into space, were fruit flies, of all things. In 1947,
Jesus,
we launched... Yeah, on a V2 rocket, we shot some fruit flies up into space to see what would happen.
I have been that frustrated when we've gotten fruit flies in the house that I did want to shoot them into space.
Yeah. I get it, yeah. Just got to get my hands on a V2 rocket, you know?
So get away from my bananas.
So there is a series of rhesus monkeys that were the first mammals in space. There's Albert I in 1948, Albert II, third, and fourth. All went on U.S. missions in 1949 to space. There's also another rhesus monkey in 1951 named Yorick, also known as Albert VI, but more colloquially known as Yorick.
Alas, poor Yorick.
I don't actually know if he survived or not.
That's a Shakespeare quote. The name is from Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah. And then in the 50s, obviously, we've got Desic and Segan on a Soviet mission, which, we know what's going on with all them, but still. There's Laika, 1957, first animal to orbit the Earth. And then we have more dogs, actually. There is Belka, who was a Soviet mission in 1960. Strelka, another dog. We've got Ham, the chimpanzee.
Ham.
Which was part of a U.S. mission for the Mercury program in 1961. And there's quite a few pictures of Ham, by the way, which I really love. There's also Enos, the chimpanzee, who's the first chimp to orbit the Earth. We've got Félicite the cat, which was the French mission I mentioned before. There's a mission called the Soviet Zond 5 mission, which was sending up a shuttle to orbit the moon, which had tortoises. It did also technically have mealworms on it, because they were, I believe,
food for the tortoise.
Was the mealworms. Yeah. So I don't really count them as like, first to orbit the moon, tortoises and mealworms, because it's like
you were the tortoise's lunch.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not going to count Tang as one of the first people to set foot on the moon.
I mean, I do still think it counts, though.
That's true. But still, they're mealworms, and I find them a little gross, so I'm not giving them that credit. And that's me being prejudiced against mealworms.
Fair.
In the 70s, we've got pocket mice on the U.S. Apollo 17 mission. We've got tortoises, beetles, wasps, and flies, all on a Soviet mission in 1975.
Put all of the wasps in the world onto a shuttle. Send that shuttle into space. Rid me of them.
Yes. This is one that threw me off a little bit. In 1975, and I'm guessing this may have been influenced by some of the substances that were freely available at the time, we sent fish up into space. The U.S. Skylab 3 mission had mummichog fish. I don't know what a mummichog fish is, but it's kind of cute looking.
Interesting. Well, I could see, if you're thinking about like, if we're going to spend prolonged time in space looking at food sources and stuff, like, I could see them being curious as to what effects space would have on fish. You know what I mean? If you're thinking about long-term space travel and food and other stuff.
That's very true. When we get to the 80s, in 1985, we sent, and I say we as the U.S., the U.S. sent Japanese tree frogs up into space to study the microgravity's effect on their anatomy. In the 1985, we also sent jellyfish up for their experimenting on their ability to sense gravity.
Oh.
Yeah. And then in 1985, the Soviets sent newts up into space. I don't know why, but I like the idea of newts in space.
Newts in space.
In the 90s, it was all Russians sending animals up into space. They sent swordtail fish, guppy fish, cockroaches, and harlequin beetles in 1994.
Interesting.
Again, some of these, it's like, well, what's
the goal with these? Yeah, the fish I get. The fish I kind of get.
Yeah, but cockroaches?
Yeah.
Cockroaches? I guess maybe seeing how resilient they are to the vacuum of space. I don't know. Of course, the first time that tardigrades were intentionally sent out into space was a European mission in 2007. Tardigrades were scientifically exposed directly to the vacuum of space and survived.
Yes, and if you're interested to learn more about tardigrades, years ago, as part of our other podcast, I had a character listening to an audiobook about tardigrades as part of the episode, and then I went, oh fuck, I have to also write the audiobook dialogue. So I separated it out, and there is an episode called Butthole. I believe Butthole Bear is an unauthorized biography where you have a little mini audiobook about tardigrades if you want to hear more about their space travels.
If you like tardigrades, go check that episode out because it's a good episode, but also tardigrades are just cute. They're little wiggly-footed guys, and they're so resilient to everything.
Just little squishies.
Little squishies. So, obviously, tardigrades, 2007. 2014, we sent geckos, or rather, not we, Russians sent geckos up into space. 2019, we sent mice up with the International Space Station. As well, in 2021, we sent some more tardigrades and bobtail squid up there.
Whoa.
Which I don't know if you've ever seen a bobtail squid. They're incredibly cute. They're the cutest squid that you can possibly imagine. They're like the little round guys with tiny little tentacles.
Oh my god. I bet they sent them up there just to boost morale.
Yeah, just to be friends with the tardigrades. Oh my god. Now I want to write a little comic strip that's a tardigrade and a bobtail squid hanging out, even though they're vastly different sizes.
Yeah. Bobtail squid just hears a little tiny voice. Like, where'd that come from?
Oh yeah, me too, bud. So yeah, that's my final mini dump. Those are all the animals that I could find record of having gone to space and their names, and I love them all. They're all heroes, regardless of where they came from or what they did. They're all heroes, and I love them all.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you're a Patreon member, available to you will be my notes on this, which has the quiz, so you can quiz your friends and family on space animals. And it also has a lovely picture of Felicette, a really, really cute picture of Desik and Tsigan, the first dogs in space. And yes, they have little uniforms.
Oh my god.
And then, of course, there's a lovely postcard painting of Laika, who is one of the most famous dogs to ever go to space.
Incredible. Well, I'd better go. I need to workshop a Dogman shirt.
Yes, absolutely. I love this. I'll help.
All right, new Dogman merch coming at some point. Friends, it's time to thank our Patreon supporters, like Chamberlain Foreman, Nunya B, Kate Mishigoose, Kate Genius, Chibs1012, Dave Perrell, Megan E, Carl Brooks, Natasha Neves, Gus Lutzi, Helen Clifford, B. Trossler, Sewing Seraph, Rachel Rachelson, Fintago, and Randy Lovings. You know the usual. If you want to help us out, you can tell other people about the show. We don't take paid ads, and we don't take out paid ads to promote our show. We grow entirely by word of mouth. So when you say nice things about us online, and you tell your friends about us, and you force your friends to listen to us on road trips, and you do all kinds of things to share the show with people, that helps us grow. And that's one of the best ways you can help us out as a podcast production group. If you're in a space to help us monetarily, you can check out the show details to find a link to our Patreon page, where you can become a Patreon supporter and get whatever bonus content we provide for any of the Mixed Nomer shows we do, and help this gang get stuff done. Thanks to Patreon support, like the people I named at the beginning of the show, I was able to upgrade microphones for one of our Today's Lucky Winner actors, Taryn, recently, because you guys gave us the money and we do use it to upgrade stuff. So they got a new microphone and a new mixer. And yeah, it's all because you support us. And the money that you give us via Patreon gets distributed via profit sharing. So everyone that goes into making any of these Mixnomer shows gets a certain percentage based on the amount of time they spend working on the shows. And we try to make it as egalitarian as possible to make sure everybody is being appreciated for the part they do. So I know I don't go into that kind of detail often, but I just kind of like to share it so you know that everyone gets a cut of what you're doing. If you want to see what Violet and I are up to elsewhere on the interwebs, you can check the show details to see our social media handles to see what we're doing. I am usually sharing a bunch of stuff about autism and communism on Instagram, so if that's up your alley, then that's where I'm hiding. And if you want to come hang out with us and chill and talk about the latest episodes, you can find a link to our Discord server in the show details. You don't have to be supporting us on Patreon anymore like you used to. You can just join and come hang out with us, and it's a lot of fun. We do streams. We try to do regular events, which I'll be scheduling some of those today, but every week we have body doubling and a weekly Stitch and Bitch as well, and those are just two of the regular things we do every week. This last weekend we played Jackbox games together, and Violet and I stream games pretty often. So if you want to come hang out with us, please come check that out. But that's all I've got for you this time, my friends. Until next time, clever sign off.